Hello again, everybody. This is Paul. We're talking about ACC Competizione with our special guests, Marco and Stefano from Kunos. Welcome back. We'll continue to talk about the new upcoming Steam Early Access game, and we hope you enjoy the show. Have you found it as exciting developing a game that's focused on a single series rather than the wider scope that was afforded by AC and different licenses coming in at different times, open wheels, closed-top touring car? Has it been exciting? I mean, we've touched on it slightly already, but...
Well, absolutely. Is more than that, because for the first time since Stefano and I founded the company, we can start a project and we can stay totally focused on it with clear ideas and information about the budget, the timeline, the gameplay, the licensing, and this changes a lot, completely our sports perspective, like never been before.
Yeah.
So
we know exactly what we have to do.
Exactly. So we don't have to, yeah.
So that's the part that makes it nice to work with. And of course, it's very exciting because it's very different from what we did in Assetto Corsa.
Yeah.
So it really opens the door even to do stuff that we couldn't do in Assetto Corsa, like just one there is like artificial intelligence. I couldn't train the artificial intelligence drivers offline and not like offline, like before shipping, right? Yeah. I had to because of the modding requirements, I had to ship something that will work straight away without any pre-processing. But this time, the situation is different. So there are a lot of doors that opens up, and it's pretty exciting, to work on it.
Excellent.
You can also think about the fact that when you create a simulation like AC1, where you can drive from the Fangio's Maserati to the Vettel Ferrari, you have to find a compromise also in the way how you manage the artificial intelligence, for instance. And you can't create an algorithm that completely and perfectly match each single different car, because with almost 180 cars we have in the game, it's practically impossible, especially with a team with less than 20 people, the guys that made AC1. And when we are going to work with a series, you are very focused on that kind of cars, that kind of tires, and that kind of performance. You can make an overall simulation that it perfectly matches the kind of game you are creating. That's very important.
There is a huge amount of experience that goes into driving a car, and of course, an artificial intelligence that is not taking advantage of being able to learn and try stuff is never going to perform at its maximal level. While if you give the AI the possibility to try things, even make mistakes, try different things in different corners, the AI will sort of learn, you see, I can go into this, because of course the artificial intelligence cannot know every bump on a track and predict what is going to happen. So maybe the artificial intelligence thinks, I can go at this speed through this corner, but there are some bumps. And that's something that it just becomes impossible to predict to the artificial intelligence. But if the artificial intelligence says, right, okay, let me go for it. Let's see what happens, right? And it goes, and it turns out faster. Then there you go. You have an artificial intelligence that just learned that corner be taken faster or slower, right? It can experiment both things. So that's hugely exciting. Not to talk about all the fascination about rain. You're racing and rain is coming, and then your driving line start to become slippery, and then you have driving line changes, how a curb evolves from dry to wet to very slippery to very dry. Super cool. Which I'm not promising anything. We have lots of very good plans for that, but it's very complicated, and we tend to do things in a step by step. So we want to build a foundation that is very solid, and then to progress through that. There is no point in going crazy with trying to simulate every molecule of water and then your tires are wrong, right? Yeah. There's absolutely no point in doing that.
No, that makes sense. The game, I've heard you speak about 64-bit for this game before. Will that mean we'll get a full massive grid of cars, the 50, 60 cars at Monza and at Spa, that kind of thing? Is that going to be possible and available in ACC?
There's nothing to do really with 64 bits. I mean, 64 bits is more really about something that we will not actually see in Assetto Corsa Competizione, but it's part of that future-proofing what we're doing. And it's really the point is that to make it very slow, very, very fast, if you're using numbers at 32 bits, there is a certain point you can have a map that is maximum a certain size, because then you started to run out of numbers. Precision is not enough to have an accurate simulation. You can see that actually, sadly, in Assetto Corsa 1. If you go on the Nordschleife and you stop in the wrong place, you will see that the car we call it breathing. It's sort of doing like this, and that's just a little bit of imprecision that comes into the calculation of springs. So moving to 64 bits means that we remove that limitation for the physics, which still means nothing because you still have the limitation on the graphics.
Yeah.
But it's a first step into something better, and it's just more precision in the number. So even things like small movement of the spring will be better represented, especially when you have cars that are very hard, very rigid, like GT3 cars. But it makes a difference. Everything makes a difference. Sadly, it has no relationship with how many cars we can put, and we are going to have exactly the same problem that we have in Assetto Corsa 1, which is the fact that our artificial intelligence cars are running full physics. And that means that the CPU is going to be the limit. So the only way to solve that is either dumb down the physics, which we will never do, or come up with a simplified physics for the AI. But then you pay another price, which is the AI start to drive and accelerate and brake in a different way compared to what you can do. And that's very obvious in other products that do have that kind of approach. So we will still have that limit in Assetto Corsa. You will still need a very powerful CPU to run a lot of cars. It's going to be very similar to what we have in Assetto Corsa 1.
So it's still in the works then, what the absolute upper limit of cars in a single player?
I think it's going to be the same thing that we have. So the number of pits in the track is going to give the limit for that. So at the moment, our target is 30 cars.
Yeah,
that's what we have. If we can reach 30 cars, we will be happy.
Yeah. So some cars more than AC1, but about 30. That's the target.
Okay, thank you. And on the gameplay topic, you alluded to a more fleshed out offline career mode, things like driving school potentially, and a few other sort of things. Have you fleshed that out yet? Are you still at the design stage? What will a career mode potentially look like?
We'll have a career mode actually, and but we are still working and figuring out about what we can do, what we want to do, and how. I saw that I'm a Formula 1 Codemaster fan. I like the game, and no, I like the game itself. It's not just a matter of simulation or not, but I like the way through the years they improved the overall game. And when in 16, maybe, or 15, they cut out the career. And I read a lot of complaints about that. But I never understood that, because when you have an official game so that you can perform the championship, actually, why you will need to have the career? But when they have reintroduced it again in last year, people was happy. So I'm trying to see how the other games do with the career mode, which kind of games do something that people like, so that we can try to get some inspiration. Because from my personal point of view, once you perform correctly the championship, actually the championship is a sort of career. But we'll have a separate career and the championship, so that different kind of gamers can get different kind of gameplay.
Okay, great. One question that popped up during when we reached out to community about career. Do you think it's going to be feasible that a player will be able to start their own team, for example, in an offline mode? So bring their own team with their own livery, their own car, driver choices into the Blind Pan series?
Yeah, we talk about it also with SRO, because being an official game, you can imagine that you can have some sort of customization, but you can do everything. So people will not be able to create a completely new grid or 20, 30 completely different cars and liveries and so on and so on. But people will be able to create their own livery with a set of sponsors and things like that, and they can also share it, play with that on multiplayer online, so that the other drivers can see the other car liveries without the need to swap the files or share files on the internet. So we are working in order to allow some sort of customization.
Bro. On the offline side, we'll get to online in a moment, but on the offline side, Blind Pan's got long distance endurance races, driver swappings par for the course. How's this been handled in single player mode? So if I was to do a single player 24-hour race, for example, can the AI take over my car as my co-driver? Can I save mid-race, that kind of thing?
Yeah, save mid-race, yes, it's an essential part of this game because of the long races. The driver swap, as you can imagine, is pretty difficult because, of course, yes, the AI can take control of your car. The problem is that probably, we haven't solved this one yet. So you will be probably faced with two possible scenarios where you actually have to sit there and look and watch the AI driving. The other possibility is that you want to go into accelerated time, but accelerated time is not going to be able to have the full simulation running.
Yeah.
So accelerated time, we will try to make it as close as possible to what could actually happen, but it's not actually simulating exactly what is happening in the car. So it's going to be tricky. So it's going to be sort of a balance. If you want a full blast simulation, then yes, you have to give the car to the AI and sit there and watch.
Cool.
Yeah.
Or go to sleep, and then when you wake up, you see that you're continuing.
If you're going to do a 24-hour race, you might as well, yeah.
Yeah, that would be cool, I think.
It's all part of the fun. Right, thank you for that. Moving on to weather. You've got rain. Hey!
Hooray. Only rain.
At night.
At night, right.
And obviously, Unreal 4 offers great potential to bring these features into the game. What will be dynamic? I'm speaking specifically about weather at the moment. What elements will be dynamic and what elements will be preset in weather effects?
The answer, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. We have plans of something like 3 steps of complexity, and we need to, we need to hit step 1 before we reach step 2. So I don't know. Hopefully we get to step 3 and it's going to be super.
So there is
Anyway.
there is a desire to get to a dynamic situation if
absolutely.
possible.
But it's complicated. It brings a lot of complications. Like, for example, I just give one example. If you start to have a very complex simulation of the evolution of the entire racetrack, and you join a multiplayer race in the middle of that, that's a huge amount of information that needs to be synchronized between the client and the server. So that's immediately one problem. So that's, for example, so we have to be careful, because the risk is that we go crazy on this thing and then we cannot make it work in multiplayer, and we really don't want to get into that. So yeah, I think it's too early to say. We're working on that right now. So we're working on how the lines clean up, they get wet, they get marbles, they get they get slippery, and then the water cleans up the rubber and they good again. All these kind of things, and hopefully they all work at the end of the project, and we can sit here and tell you how everything is awesome.
Otherwise, it will be always raining, so that we fix all the issues, because it's always wet, and that's it.
It's always slippery, and
absolutely
that's it.
On the weather,
probably competition at the moment is the less slippery game on wet I ever tried, because it usually is always a lot slippery, But but with racing tires, also the wet tires are very good performance on the wet.
I think it's going to be a surprise for those people that consider GT3 cars boring.
Yeah.
Just put some water and they're not boring anymore. They're very interesting to drive.
Okay, thank you. Well, still on the weather topic, a cool feature from a couple of other sims out there is like live weather. So you've got a multiplayer race or whatever, it picks up the weather from the nearest weather station at that location and replicates it in game. Is that anything you thought about for ACC?
Actually, we talked about this, I think, last meeting that we had. I remember Simone said something against it. I can't remember exactly. But yeah.
He wasn't happy.
He wasn't happy. But yeah, well, the quick answer is that definitely we are considering it. So whether or not it's going to be into the game, I don't know. But I can't remember what Simone said.
I think Simone said that if you are racing on winter, and
it's always going to be cold and rainy.
If you have the snow on the track,
which is not realistic if you think about it. I mean,
exactly.
If the Blancpain is going in summer and spring, it's not really going to be realistic to drive in a winter test condition. Could be interesting. Surely it's interesting, but if you want to talk from a realism point of view, the full realism would be that every time you race on that track, you get exactly the same weather condition of the race. But again, that would remove the random element. So it's one of those things that you just need to evaluate if it makes sense from a gameplay point of view. I don't see why it shouldn't be there.
Okay, thank you.
And I was in the Hungaroring 2 weeks ago, and it was snowing, and it's not fun at all. So
nobody
we
was
had to
able
reschedule the laser scan because we didn't have the chance to do that. And snow is not an option.
No, you cannot have a laser scan if it's raining or if it's snowing. So.
The laser scan doesn't like the snow. Yeah.
So the weather conditions won't include snow then.
No, because you cannot laser scan.
Yeah.
Right. Going back to dynamic surfaces for a moment, can we expect some kind of real road like we see in our Factor 2 type solution? So a rubbering in line, offline marbles, that sort of thing, where you build the track up the more.
Yeah, I mean, we have a version of that with Assetto Corsa already, so I think it's fair to expect an evolution of that.
Okay.
So,
Nice, short and sweet answer. Moving on to virtual reality, which is becoming increasingly more popular. You do a great job, I must say. I'm a
the
VR
most
fanboy.
favorite matter of Stefano, the VR.
Well, I'm a self-confessed VR fanboy, and AC1, I think, does it absolutely
I like it as
brilliant.
well. Yeah.
Yep. UE4 supports VR, I believe. I'm assuming ACC will be VR ready. Has that presented any challenges? Is there anything that you're trying to do over and above what you delivered in AC1?
I think it comes down. It's a very similar consideration to the one about the console. So it's important. Now we know that VR exists, so we can when we design something. There is, a little part in our brain that asks us, is this going to work in VR? And if the answer is no, then you have to design it in a different way. So yeah, as I said, it really comes down a lot to Unreal Engine. So if for whatever reason they break VR tomorrow, then there you go. That's the VR support for Assetto Corsa Competizione gone. So hopefully that doesn't happen. But it's one of those things that comes to, package with the engine. So it's nice to have. It was very nice. The very, 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 very first time that we had a track in Assetto Corsa, and I could, launch it with. You just put the switch and you launch it and it starts in VR. It's like magic. I didn't have to do anything. It's like it just works. So
yeah, definitely, yeah.
Good.
And also we will work to see if we can also integrate the UI in VR, so that we can make an experience that you wear the helmet and whatever you have, the gamepad or the steering wheel, you don't need to down and up the device or just to use the mouse, the keyboard.
If you're sitting in a cockpit and you don't have to reach for the keyboard or the mouse. And
great.
Of course, it wasn't possible with AC1 because of the HTML user interface that we cannot completely redesign it to make it VR compatible, especially after 3 years of development.
Yeah.
So,
but even after that, that didn't work at all. But also the user interface once you are in the car in Assetto Corsa 1, is mouse based, so you still need to find your mouse if you want to change the user interface. Otherwise, you just put it as you want. But if you want to start a race, you still need to reach the mouse and click on drive and so on. So it's
or the desk button.
yeah, exactly. I mean, all these little things that sadly are just a symptom of a software that was designed when VR didn't exist.
Yeah.
And when PC was the only platform that we would even consider being on. So so that's the reason why we have those. Luckily this time around, we know that VR is a thing and it's part of our development.
Fantastic. Right, we're getting to the end. Last few questions.
Yeah.
We've kind of covered this one already, but I still think it's a good question to ask, just so people can hear your opinion on it, really. Many people, myself included, are hungry for a truly detailed, feature-complete, hardcore racing experience, racing simulation. Thinking things like getting stuck in the gravel, limited number of tyre sets, punctures, that kind of thing. How hardcore is ACC going to be?
Would you like to get stuck in the gravel after 23 hours for racing? Really?
Right. Okay.
I sometimes set myself a limit that if I crash, there's no restart. The rig goes off, and I have a chore in the house to do, and that keeps you focused.
Definitely, yes.
Yeah,
makes sense.
I like that the game is somehow punishing your mistakes. So if you go in the gravel and you get stuck, that's totally your fault, and it's fine. I'm not a fan of things like punctures and for example engine failures or stuff like that, unless they are connected with your behavior. So,
Yeah,
for
with
example,
your driving style.
Yeah, like if you start cutting corners, you might see the chances of puncture going up. Or if you go over the red line, although with these cars it's basically impossible. For example, the engine is like it's basically impossible to over rev it, because the car will not let you shift down if you are not at the right RPM. So that really, so putting something in the code that after you've been racing for 2 hours it will blow your engine is, I don't know, or will make your tire explode. To be honest, I'm not a fan of that. Yes, it's realistic, but who cares?
Also, there
But
is a
yeah. So it's mostly game design, so decision. So most people are frustrated. You could see Marco asking you that question. Is assuming that you will say no, I will not like that. But
but you like
as
you
most
want to.
normal people will answer. But, we will see. I really love the idea of, for example, let's say that you are abusing the car over the curbs, and your chances of the suspension breaking goes up. That's something that I like, because you are responsible for what's going
Exactly.
on.
I don't like the randomized element. That feels canned to me, sort of thing.
Exactly. Or at least you are increasing the you are increasing the chances that will happen. But if you don't do it, the chance should be zero. You should never have something like that. We've been talking about this with Aris, I think, for 5 or 6 years now, and we never actually had the time to do it. So time is always the thing that creates problems, because
of course
you have a deadline and you have to hit it, and sadly there are many things that have to come in priority and that are more important than these things. So hopefully we will make it in time this time to put also super hardcore elements.
Excellent. Okay, I'm going to talk for the last few questions briefly about online. You alluded earlier that you're going to have a ranking system, minor rating guy coming on board, working in-house. Esport has become the new big word in sim racing and gaming. What kind of functionality for broadcasting do you expect to have in ACC? Obviously, at RaceDepartment, we like to live stream our league and club races. I'm not a live streamer, but I hear there are some frustrations on what it's possible to do. And obviously, if esports taking off more and more, it's more and more important to be able to visually present the product in a good way. So have you thought much about that? Have you got any ideas of where that may go?
Yes. Obviously, the idea is to, again, improve what we have, and that's exactly the direction that we want to follow. So something like spectator mode or broadcasting mode is sorely missing in Assetto Corsa 1, and by redesigning our multiplayer system, that's one of the things that it's very high in the list of things that we would like to change, and so this rewrite of the multiplayer will hopefully take care of that. But at the end of the day, it's very difficult to talk in this part of the project, because of course we have lots of plans, but in software you can have lots of ideas of what you want to do, but at the end of the day, what matters is what you can actually code into the game. So and until it's done, you really don't know what you have in your hands. So it's in our head. It will be dishonest on my part to tell you yes, there will be a broadcasting.
Sure.
All I can tell you is that we want to have it. Hopefully we will.
And I think at this early stage, that's all we can expect is, are things on the radar and on the menu to look at? And 90% of us appreciate that you try and see what
yeah, I'm sure that there will be people that will watch this video and say, no, that's not good enough. You lazy bastard.
I still feel bad at the expo when I made a little joke about Raid, blatantly a joke, and then you got hammered.
Also because the problem is that when you design it, you spend 20% of the time designing it, and 80% of the time make it working. This is not exactly the same. So
yeah, I always say, like, in software, implementation is everything. It's like, you can talk from now to forever, but really until you sit down and you do it, you will never know if you can do it or not.
Exactly. And still on the online side of things, obviously ranked multiplayer is something you're speaking of doing. Will you still be opening up the traditional, people can host their own server, their own league and club racing? That'll still be a part of ACC.
Yeah. Of course, the server, yes, we're still discussing, and probably I can imagine it's going to be an open discussion on the forums, of what makes sense, because of course we are going to have a ranking, and so do we want to have servers that can opt out from that ranking, so you can go there and crush everybody, and your career will be safe? I think there's going to be a lot of discussion. Luckily, we have Kevin with us, so he's got more ideas that any of us can ever have in, So and it's also very good in implementing those ideas.
And I know this is only like a minor question in the grand scale of things, but it's something I really, really want to know. When somebody asked it, are we going to be able to pick a livery when we go in a server this time?
Yes, that's the I see my answer above, but yes, that's definitely the plan. Yes, absolutely. We're not going to make the same mistakes again.
Good. Right, almost over. Second to last question. AC1. You alluded to it, 7 years, did you say, that had a lifespan of? Do you anticipate the same for ACC? Will this be a product that runs for a similar length of time, or could we expect another Kunos Digital Brothers title in 2019, 2020?
As said before, we are completely focused on AC Competizione at the moment. We have a long-term strategy, but we are completely focusing on this product now. And then we'll see, because also we want to see how it behaves with a Real Engine 4, just to see if we can move it and bring it forward for the next years. So at the moment, we are not getting any other plan than Competizione.
And I just want to add an extra question in that I've just thought of. Is your it's a bit out of sync, but is your license with the Blancpain GT series or with the ACO? So basically what I'm saying is, are you licensed just to produce Blancpain GT3, or would we see potential of DLC for GT4, GT3 Asia series, Pirelli Challenge?
We'll see, because I think it will also depend by how the people will react when we release the game, because at the end we had to make it sustainable by a financial point of view. When we started to work on Assetto, and also when we released it on early access, we never believed that at the end we would have reached the 180 cars. So who knows?
How many DLCs?
And what we know is that we are not going to make a weird mix between Blancpain series and other series that are not related to that championship. But the Blancpain series, there is it runs also in Asia. It performs also the GT4. So we'll see what we can do in the future, because people will like it. There is no reason why we shouldn't enlarge it. But
Yeah.
We'll see it just only after the release.
Yeah, the DLC needs a critical mass of users.
Yeah.
To actually be a viable way forward for the software. So hopefully we get there. But again, we'll see if it makes sense or not.
Of course. Right, thank you. Final question then from me, which you're going to tell me no to, but I ask everybody. Have you got something exclusive that you can share with us that's first time anybody's heard about ACC, just for our race department viewers?
Well, ACC is a dream that came true. Not it's not just for saying, but because probably nobody knows that in 2008, Stefano and I, we had the chance to create the official game of the Italian GT Championship 2008 at the Netcar Pro era. It was like the movie Jaws, when you see the shark for the first time, you say, okay, we need a bigger boat. And it was exactly the same situation, but it's also that kind of chance that you can get once in your life. So we invested almost everything we had in that project. We worked for 6 months just before to discover, thanks to Ferrari, that the Motorsport Federation, that is an official motorsport federation that granted us the rights to make the championship, actually wasn't entitled to do that. And we almost gone bankrupt because we invested all our money, all our time. We completely wasted the 6 months of development. And it was a really pain because we really got just close to that to go bankrupt. And by the way, it was also the beginning of the starting of our partnership with Ferrari, because 1 year and a half after, we started to work with them on the Ferrari Virtual Academy game. And from that, everything changed. So after Assetto Corsa, when Stefano and I, during one of our journeys and travels, our business trips in 2016, when we discussed about to figure out, okay, what next Assetto Corsa after the console release in the long-term strategy. And we believe that the making an official game of the Blancpain GT series would have been a very cold and cool revenge, and for that. And actually, it is. So
Yes.
from the dust on the stairs, on the stars, hopefully.
Brilliant. Well, can you give us a little bit more of a insight into that, into the potential restrictions or not that exist around bringing cars, tracks, and liveries into ACC?
No, I can't. In the sense that we really don't know. We have no idea. We have no idea how to support modding in a real engine, and we have absolutely no time available to do it.
Yeah,
and that's pretty much it. I mean, that's really we're being totally honest with this. There is no Illuminati plan at the back. It's just that we simply don't have the time to do it. We have to try to figure out how the engine works, and that's difficult enough to make it work for what we are trying to do. And supporting modding like we did in Assetto Corsa means do a lot of stuff in a not completely optimal way, and and then leaving the door open because you want to leave the door open for other people to do it. So most of the time means also doing a little bit more work to keep this door open, also to try to offer a little bit of support to people that are trying to do it. And with this project, the time is simply not there. We don't have, the project needs to come out because the season is the 2018 season, right? So if we come out in 2020, it's we ruin it. So it's like, who cares at that point? So deadlines are very important with this project, and I'm very sad because thanks to modding, we were able to get in contact with a lot of great guys, especially myself. There are so many things in Assetto Corsa that are better today because of these guys figure out stuff that we couldn't. So it's a big loss for us. But
and two of our very brilliant 3D artists, we knew them thanks to the modding. So there is no doubt about that. The fact that the modding has been a very, very important part of Assetto.
So if we could, we would totally do it. But sadly, we just don't have the time to do it this time. Sadly.
Which is understandable, absolutely. So it's fair to say, so you're not going to actively block the ability to mod, but then you're not going to encourage it and support it.
I mean, we're not going to be in the forum try to explain people how to do things.
No.
If somebody can't do something, you're not going to suddenly come, license can't do that. No, kick them out. Right. That's okay. Well then, I never doubt the ingenuity of the community, so I'm sure they'll work something out. Right. And my next question is audio. You mentioned there's going to be real life recordings for the cars. What is different in the audio of ACC than was found in AC1?
Well, it's different in the way how we don't need to contact a single team when we were in Vallelunga, so we take advantage of some testing, so we asked about the chance to make some recordings on the cars. But this time we can have a direct access to all the cars during the testing, during the race weekend, especially in the Friday where they have some activity that they can try to deserve some time for our operations, because as you can imagine, they are not there to wasting their time, and time is money. So we had to be very, very effective in the way how we record the sounds. But definitely we'll have the chance to work directly with single teams because they know that we are there to record their own sounds, that they are very interested to make sure that the simulation of their car is very well done, because some of the teams of the Blancpain already use AC1 for testing, for car setup, and also for the training of the pro and amateur drivers, because you can imagine that an amateur driver that never joined the Blancpain GT series before, and he comes from Japan, for instance, or from Australia, and he comes here to race on the European tracks that he never been and saw before. He has the chance to drive in the simulator, in the way how the racing teams can offer a simulation that is straight the simulation of the Blancpain GT series is very effective also for their sponsor, their teams, their professional drivers and amateurs that pay to drive actually. So they are very interested to have a simulation that is very realistic for their own car. So it would be more easy for me to convince them to allow us to take the car data, the recordings, and so on.
That's it from me. So, guys, can't thank you enough for coming here and having this chat with us. Massively looking forward to finding out more and getting our hands on it. When is it coming into early access? Summer, did you say? Hopefully.
Summer.
Hopefully, around then. So yeah.
Well, you people will have the chance to play the game at the Misano race weekend at the end of June. So you can imagine that the early access could follow not so far from that.
Perfect. Right, guys.
Let's say soon.
Soon. We've had that one before.
As always.
Perfect. Right. Thank you very much for your time, and
thank you.
Yeah, speak
Always
to you again soon. Cheers.
Thank you.
Ciao. See you later. Bye-bye. Well, we hope you enjoyed that. that's been a quick chat. All your questions answered on Assetto Corsa Competizione that's coming out for PC later this year. If you enjoyed this and you enjoy our other content, then we'd very much appreciate a like, a subscribe on our Twitch, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. Give us a like, give us a subscribe. It makes me happy. It lets us do things like this more often. Really enjoyed having you. Really enjoyed talking to the guys. Thank you again for that. And yeah, looking forward to ACC coming out later on in 2018 for PC. I've been Paul. This has been RDTV. Sim racing's awesome. See you next time.